Welcome to Ask the Funeral Director with Mike Voyajakis. Brought to you by Voyage Funeral Home and Crematorium. Now, here's your host, Brad Wilder. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Ask the Funeral Director on this Wednesday, January the 15th. Hard to believe half the month has already gone by. We're just 5 days away from President Trump's inauguration. A lot of people excited about that. A lot of people excited in a good way and in a bad way. There's, animosity on both sides about what's about to come down in the USA. Of course, we're going to talk about lots of different topics tonight. We're going to say hi to some of our great viewers that are already joining us online. You can find us on 5 different platforms, from YouTube to Rumble, as well as X. What else are we on? Twitch, Facebook. We're there. We're all over. All you got to do is get online and join us tonight. Thanks to everybody signing in and joining us right now. We've got a new first-time person coming in before everybody else. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Mike Voyajakis is here. We'll get to him coming up, and we've got some great videos about a couple of events that we're going to have here in Winnipeg that really are going to expose some of the criminality in the justice system and the problems we're faced with here in Canada. At the Cork and Flame, we're always cooking and ready with the finest for all our customers any time of day or night. From breakfast brunch to lunch and dinner, steak and seafood to ribs and more. The Cork and Flame Fine Dining. Always fresh, with fabulous desserts and a narration of the urban landscape, plus a passion for quality food. Eat, drink, chill. Cork and Flame, 3106 Portage Avenue. There's no hurry, so sit back and relax. Welcome back, everybody. Great to have everybody here tonight. We've got a new first person to sign in quickly and beat everybody else out. Normally, who's our normal person,
Well,
Mike?
Gord and Steve, and today it's Shelley. Yeah. Shelley, welcome to the show. You are number 1, Shelley.
Shelley Killeen, yes.
Number 1, Steve Age. Number 2, Susan Carrier. Number 3, Gord, nowhere to be found. Al Bueller.
Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found. Missing in action.
That's right.
We welcome you back to another edition of Ask the Funeral Director. We love having you here. You know, Brad, I look forward to coming to the studio every Wednesday night. It's kind of a relief. We kind of relax. We get to enjoy the comments and have fun on the show, and I love hanging out with you.
We love having you here.
Did I say that out loud? I love hanging out with you.
Well, I'm just happy you're wearing pants tonight.
You know, I heard it was Al Bueller's birthday this Saturday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hey, party man.
Oh, was he going to be 80?
We're going to have a party out at the cabin, out in Beausejour with him.
I know he keeps talking about
Big
his
bonfire.
Beausejour house, but does he even live in Beausejour? You got to wonder.
I have no idea.
Oh, what's up with that guy? Going to say hello to some people. Of course, Shelley, who was number 1. Steve Age, welcome to the show. Susan Carrier.
Yeah, Janet Larson. Hi, Janet, from Smithers, British Columbia. Good to have you, Janet. Let's see here. Debbie McKenzie from Tabor, Alberta.
Oh, look, and there's Al Bueller.
Joycey Belmore as well. Good evening, Mike and Brad. God bless. Good evening, everyone. Al Bueller says. Susie Cron Reimer, 80. 80
Glow.
what?
That's a pretty cool name.
What's 80 mean?
Glow Russell from Winnipeg.
Oh, yeah, Glow Sovereignty.
Hey, where's Ross from Ross, Manitoba?
Don't know. He'll be here soon.
What the heck?
Brody Russell from Beausejour.
Hey, Brody.
It's a good
Brody's
place.
a good friend of my son Josh's, and love Brody. Good guy, hardworking, good kid.
You ever heard of Long Salt, Ontario, Mike?
Long Salt? No.
Brenda Warwick is from there.
Hey, Mavis. Welcome, Mavis, to the show, and Lucy Hildebrand.
Yeah.
Lots of people joining us and hopping on. A lot of good things to talk about in tonight's show. And what's funny is the controversy that, the fires in L.A., and guess who's talking about the fires in L.A., and everyone's telling him to shut up. That's right.
Donald Trump?
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson is coming out with the truth.
Why are they telling him to shut up, though?
Because Mel Gibson, they think he's a conspiracy theorist, like you and I.
Oh, okay, like you and I. Yeah.
When we say things that are true, but they're really not in people's eyes, but they actually are.
Oh, it's safe
reality.
it's safe and
It's
effective.
Conspiracy.
It's safe and effective.
Mike Teixeira, a good friend of mine from a long time ago. Mike, welcome to the show. Nice to have you on board. So, yeah, Mel Gibson, Mel Gibson, in my opinion, is a really good actor. and has a lot of good things to say and says it the way it is.
Absolutely.
And he basically says that these fires, there's something funny going on about the fires, like the reservoir, for example.
The reservoir being
emptied again.
the dams being taken out, and the river the whole river being siphoned into the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, can you imagine the river's not there, the water's not where it's supposed to be, the fire department doesn't have no pressure in their hoses, but it must be a legit fire.
Should have taken the blue pill.
Yeah, for taking the blue pill. Christina Haley, welcome to the show. A lot of people joining us tonight. We're going to have a fun show, lots to talk about, and 5 days.
Victims
Trump takes over power.
Well, that's the 5 days from that, but I'm talking the 10 days. Well, not even 9 days to the January 24th date, which is even bigger than all this other stuff that we're talking about.
We are going to talk about January 24th after these videos.
Oh, okay.
Because these videos are all about January 24th. We're going to get right into video number 1 here tonight, and we're going to talk about it after we play it. So, Brad, are you ready?
Are you ready to play it right,
are you
right
ready?
now?
Are you ready?
I'm ready. If
Katie
you're
B
ready.
says, hey, fellas, ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
These criminal offenses, and it's we've never seen anything like this.
In October, Winnipeg's Irene Lima and Chad Cabas were arrested and charged with numerous counts of animal cruelty after Winnipeg police discovered photographs and videos of the couple torturing and killing animals for the purpose of posting on the dark web. Now on Wednesday, we're learning even more disturbing details regarding the pair's alleged acts.
Between May 20th, 2024 and October 7th, 2024, more than 75 animals were filmed or photographed being tortured and killed. None survived.
After police seized the pair's electronic devices during a search of their home, they uncovered hundreds of videos and photographs and tens of thousands of encrypted communications between the accused. They also say the couple, who were rearrested on Monday, had turned their attention to children, with police alleging they discovered several child pornography images on a device belonging to the pair.
Investigators also discovered communications where Lima and Cabex discussed their intention to torture a child. There was also a sexual component to this offense.
If these facts are proven to be true, what happened to these animals is absolutely horrific.
Caitlin Mitchell with Animal Justice says moving forward, while it's essential that those responsible are held accountable, she hopes this case can serve as precedent for greater protections towards animals.
Any individuals who are guilty of violent acts toward animals cannot do so again in the future. We really need to focus here on the animals as victims and preventing future crimes.
No bail, right to jail.
Earlier this month, local animal lovers voiced their disgust towards these alleged acts outside of the Winnipeg law courts. And on Saturday, they'll bring their calls to justice to the steps of the Manitoba legislature for a rally from 2 to 4 p.m. In Winnipeg, Kurt Black, City News.
Located in historic Wesley.
What's up with
I like
that?
Kurt Black.
Unbelievable.
Kurt Black says it the way it is and reports news the way news should be reported. So, Kurt, good job for being an honest and straightforward reporter. Does that not make you sick? They killed 75 fur babies live on video, brutally killing them. And what's this going to be? Another catch and release after all those deaths? And then they're talking about
it better not
babies.
be a catch and release, dude.
Babies. They were going to do crazy things to babies that they found out. I mean, things like that made me sick.
They were getting paid somewhere along the line. There's a money trail to be talked about there, too, I'm
the
sure.
dark web. I've never been there, don't want to go there. But they had evidence. Police are useless, Glow says. The police, unfortunately, have their hands tied at a lot of times. What's useless is the justice system. The justice system is causing this. Police go out, they do their job, they bring the evidence to the courts, but before they get a chance to do that, the people that have committed the crimes are back on the streets again. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit.
Homolka and
Oh,
Carla Homolka
remember
and
that?
that other guy, they did the same kind of stuff, right? But they did it not with animals, they did it with people.
I'd like to
just-
welcome Remedy Max on the show. She says, Happy New Year, Mike and Brad. And I know you can't see it because it was way, way up here, and a whole bunch of people have joined us since then. But thank you, Christine. Oh, Christina's on the show. She hasn't been here for a while either. So a lot of people joining us that have disappeared and have come back. So hopefully they're going to enjoy tonight's show. But yes, people that commit those kind of crimes, I mean, that's murder. And those little animals are part of our family. Mm-hmm. Your dogs and your cats and your fur babies.
They sure are.
I keep saying this over and over again. Sharon's going to kill me. But my dog comes running to see me at the door before Sharon ever gets off the couch. And Sharon, I love you. I really do. And I'm sorry for being away from home for such a long time, running all these businesses. And lucky I have a good wife who's caring and compassionate and loving. If that doesn't get me something, I don't know what will.
I told her I loved her earlier.
Man, we're going to go into video number 2 here. All about crime in the city of Winnipeg.
Crime. There's none of that in Winnipeg, is there?
I don't know.
All right, you ready to do this?
Ready.
You want to pre-set it up or just crime in Winnipeg in general?
Just do it.
We are getting a bird's eye view tonight of just how dangerous it is to be on the front lines of retail in Winnipeg. A violent, brazen robbery at a McPhillip Street pawn shop was caught on camera. And tonight, the owner wants you to see the footage, saying this is the worst level of crime he's seen in 25 years. Live tonight with the details is CTV's Jeff Keel. Jeff, you were down at that business today. What happened during this robbery?
Well, the suspects burst into the pawn shop, one of them carrying a machete, the other pointing a shotgun at employees. And now here is that video of this 2.5-minute ordeal. Staff and a customer at this McPhillip Street pawn shop were terrorized this week by suspects carrying a shotgun and a machete.
Having shotguns and machetes at a retail theft, that's another level.
Security video from different angles shows the 2.5-minute ordeal on Remembrance Day. A customer can be seen standing at the front with a staff member. That's when the suspects enter. One pointing a shotgun at the employees. They hop over the counter. From this angle, you can see one of the suspects standing on the counter holding a machete.
They pointed a shotgun and a machete at my 2 employees and says, "Don't move or we're going to shoot."
They appear to take cash from the front, and while holding the staff at gunpoint, suspects go in the back and take more items. They then leave the pawn shop. Owner Richard Doring says his staff are still shaken from the incident.
One guy's on stress leave, obviously, and so I don't know if he'll ever come back to work because he's really traumatized by it.
Doring is sharing the video with CTV News and speaking out to show how dangerous the retail crime problem is getting.
Got the giant tires, the 7-Elevens, and those are just retail thefts as we run and grab, and now we're into shotguns and machetes.
The robbery comes on the same week the NDP government announced its crime plan, which includes 12 new police officers to expand the retail theft initiative and make it permanent. That's where police officers patrol hotspots. Doring thinks that will help, but he says tougher bail rules and sentences would send a stronger message.
Dealing with people's lives, not just merchandise now. So that, if they ever do get caught, they have to put a precedence to these guys. Say, hey, you used a gun, you're going away for 10 years, not just 1 year.
The NDP did release a bail reform plan earlier this year. It includes electronic monitoring and $3 million for more officers to track offenders who violate bail conditions.
Jeff, have any of the suspects been caught by police?
Yeah, we contacted the Winnipeg Police Service and asked if there's any charges or arrests, and they say there are no updates at this point.
Unbelievable, eh, Mike?
I want you to know, we're playing these on purpose. This is the city of Winnipeg where this is happening. And you're not even safe going to work these days. This is a pawn shop. They have nothing new probably to pawn shop, all used items. And these guys go in there with machetes and guns and threaten to kill people and stab people. This is pathetic. We need to do something about this. And as I've been saying over and over again, and I'm going to say it again, we need to fight back against the crime and the justice system in Canada, in Manitoba. It's out of control. You will have a chance to do this. Trust me, it is important for all of us to get together on the 24th outside my brother's restaurant, who was also murdered, going to work. It's a hard thing to believe in your mind when you're going to work to make a living and you get killed at your place of employment or your place of work. And that's what happened to Kyriakis 1 year ago, the 24th of January. And that's why we're doing this on the 24th of January. I'm calling it Fighting Back Against Crime and the Failing Justice System. We're going to have some really good speakers there. We're going to reveal who these speakers are. But more than that, people and numbers matter and will be heard. And it's enough's enough. It's time for change. And if you've had enough, you need to join us. The more people that stand together, united as one, demanding the same thing. You know, I talked to a family this weekend at the funeral home who live in St. James, and it's frustrating to me that people that have worked so hard to raise families and now are retired and want to enjoy retirement cannot even walk out in their neighborhoods because they're terrified. So soon as the sunlight goes away, they're locked indoors. Do we need more police presence? The catch and release program is talking about putting bracelets on people. Well, there's punishment for your crime. Put your bracelet on and go home and sit and watch. Ask the funeral director. I mean,
I got
what a
just a
joke.
perfect place for that bracelet. Maybe right around the throat.
If we don't demand change, it could be
Shocker.
your loved one next. It could be your loved one next. It could be your friend, your brother, your sister, your mom or dad who are just minding their own business, walking down the street. It's time we get together and fight the pathetic system that's in place that's killing our loved ones. We're going to play one more video, get into Ask the Funeral Director, and a whole bunch of questions.
All right, let's do it.
52-year-old Marcel Hank Charlotte was arrested at the Millennium Library in downtown Winnipeg on Saturday afternoon after missing his curfew check. During his arrest, Winnipeg police found methamphetamine, which also violates Charlotte's court-ordered conditions. The Winnipeg Police Service says Charlotte has had a lengthy and violent criminal history, including a manslaughter conviction in a 1991 killing of a 2-year-old child for which he served a 6-year sentence. Charlotte has been charged with possession and 3 counts of failing to comply with his probation order.
Wow, that was some look on that guy's face.
So he murdered a child.
Yeah.
Served 6 years, put him
That's
back
it?
on the streets where he can harm another child. And if you read the article on that one, they told women to be cautious because he was known for raping random women.
Yeah.
Is that not scary? There's another catch and release who is let go from the system only to reoffend again and be caught and sent back to prison again, where he'll probably be released in a short little while again. This is why we need to stand together as one. We need to unite. We need to fight. We need change in Manitoba. We need to do this for our families. But most of all, you want to do it for your children and grandchildren so they can have a safe place to grow up, so they can play in the fields and ball hockey in the streets and all the things that we did when we were kids. But right now, it is not safe to leave your kids alone in the streets. It's not safe to go downtown. And Winnipeg is just not a safe city at all. The more people we get together, the louder our voices will be, and the media will be there, and we will demand change. Please join us on the 24th. It's in loving memory of my brother, Kyriakos Voidakis, murdered 1 year ago on the 24th. Compliments of the catch and release system. The justice system failed our family over and over again, and what's really frustrating about all that is the lies that were involved in my brother's murder. And instead of apologizing and reaching out to a family that's grieving, a family that lost a loved one who was at work, they make up lies instead.
You keep saying the justice system, but it's so much more than just a justice system. At this point, we're not just talking about that. There's the city of Winnipeg that's involved. We have EMS, we have fire, we have police, we have things that are really creating concerns, don't we, Mike?
We do. And you know, as we talked many times, I have a lot of solutions to a lot of the problems, and I've done a lot of speaking to people, a lot of talking, a lot of investigating since my brother's death, finding out what's going on in the background and what's wrong and how we need to fix it. And we're going to talk about some of those things. But enough is enough. And if you haven't built up frustration yet, but what you just saw tonight alone, this is only a little tiny bit of the crime that's taking place and the violence in our city that's completely out of control. Do you know that we lock our doors at all our funeral homes so we could keep people from coming in?
Yeah.
Because it's that dangerous. Staff members do not want to work with the doors open because they don't know who's going to come in. And our funeral home on Kirkfield, in the heart of St. James, has been robbed 2 times. And I just want to show you how the police are working in the city of Winnipeg. When I attended, so we get the call from the alarm company. The alarm goes off. The alarm company calls you. I go to the cameras and I see people in the funeral home rampaging through everything they possibly can. And they ask me, how long will it take for you to get to the funeral home? 25 minutes. I arrive in 25 minutes. no police cars in the parking lot. And then when I phone the police and I go, hey, I'm in the parking lot, there's no police cars. I'm sorry, this call is not a priority.
Yeah.
This call is not a priority. We have a B&E with people in the building robbing the place, but it's not a priority. Now, is it the police officer's fault? No, it's the system. The system is definitely broken in so many different ways. And we need to fix the system, and we need people in power who are going to stand up for you, the citizens, and make change for your families. And that's the bottom line. This isn't about money. This isn't about popularity. It's about you and your families and your futures. And taking Winnipeg to a new place.
I sit here just going, man, I don't even know what to say to all this. This just amazes me that this even goes on.
It amazes me that we even talk about this in 2025.
Exactly. And, I sit here and I think about Kirkfield and I go, there's nothing really there to rob. It's not like there's a whole bunch of anything there.
And who breaks into a funeral home? I mean, it's like going into a pawn shop. Like
breaking into a church. It looks like it was a church. Who breaks into a church? What are you going to get out of a church? Come on.
And you know what? You got to wonder what these criminals are thinking. And the drug problem in our streets is completely out of control. These people are walking around stoned out of their faces, and they're dangerous because when they're on drugs. And I'm gonna let you know, I reported another crime in the St. James area, and I told the police where a majority of all the stolen things are in the St. James area that are probably missing from your home, but they're too busy to respond to that. It's not a priority. Is somebody getting hurt? Is somebody getting killed? We need change in this province. We need change in this country. We need change in Canada. It's pathetic what we're seeing on our streets, and it's wrong. And if we don't stand up for our rights, it's not going to get better. And I really feel sorry for these kids that are growing up and are having to live in fear of this new generation. And the young offenders and the gangs, and they're not afraid to hit you. They're not, there's no consequences to crimes.
Right.
And Fernie says, is anyone else's volume low? Got mine right up. Church wine, Brad?
Yeah, church wine, that's it. No, the volume's cranked up here. We're full
Mavis
levels.
says, we good citizens deserve to have content with these repeat sexual, and it bounced out of the way. But you're right, Mavis. They need to stay in prison. And if they don't have enough prisons, enough remand centers, build more. Because we don't want these violent people on our streets. We don't want offenders on our streets over and over again. We need justice.
Well,
we need a police system that's working. Like, are we not smart enough? We have AI these days. Are we not smart enough to put a police service together that's going to work and protect the people and the citizens of the city? When I was young, I remember I lived on Toronto Street between Sargent and Ellis. And you would see police officers walking the beats. And that's not happening anymore. You go to a Jets game. It's terrifying to walk to your car afterwards because all your windows are broken. The city and safe injection sites. What's that going to do? It's going to cause the crime to rise even more. Rob Canoe, what are you doing? Think about your children and your community and what these safe injection sites are going to do and how much more crime they're going to cause and how much more violence is going to be brought to
You
our
have no
city.
idea what this is going to cause out the back door of that safe injection site, down the back alleys of Winnipeg, Main Street, Portage Avenue, all of it, all the way along. It's going to get nastier. It's going to get way worse. These safe injection sites, I've seen them in action in Lethbridge, Alberta previously, and they did no justice to the city whatsoever. They created a tent city right in behind City Hall, and that tent city had to be taken down. But before that tent city was taken down, it was there for over a year, and they had sea canisters that were flown in or brought in that were dropped that had tents and camping equipment and all this stuff to help those people. And it was kind of interesting they were being supplied. But the money, once you followed it, came from a guy named George Soros.
Yeah, see? It's all about the World Economic Forum and what they're doing to this world is terrible. Is this happening on purpose? You got to ask yourself that question. Have we totally lost control of what's going on our streets, in our schools?
We have. We
don't protect our
that.
children. We don't protect our families anymore because we can't. You're in your house and somebody comes into your house and robs you and you can't even defend yourself.
They talk about safe spaces all the time in schools, and I got to question whether school is even safe at all at this point in 2025 with Just the way that the lack of administration handles things.
Yeah, I was going to say there was a stabbing in a school the other day. I think it was in Alberta.
Yeah.
So it's scary. It's out of control, and that's why I'm saying you need to stand with us together, united, with our voices being loud and clear. That we, the people, have the power, and we, the people, have elected you to protect us and to take care of us. And it's time for change, and that change comes now, before we lose more people to this violent nonsense that's going on in the city. Al Bueller says, yet there's police officers standing in superstores and Walmarts as greeters. But I just want to let you know what's happening there because I've investigated that too. So these police officers are not part of the City of Winnipeg police program. These are officers hired by the stores, which they consider, overtime or whatever.
They're security officers.
They're acting as security officers, even though they're wearing a Winnipeg police uniform and carrying a gun. So yes, it's sad that you can't even go to a superstore and have armed police there to make you feel safe so you can buy your groceries to feed your family. Everything is so wrong, and it drives me crazy. Even going shopping, I went to the store the other day and I bought some groceries. And I spent $150 and I walked out with a little bag of groceries. The cost of living is just completely out of control. I want to talk about something else that you'll find interesting. So I'm not going to mention the person's name, but I'll say that we have had a person in our care for a number of months now, probably going on 4 or 5 months. And they're in a casket, and they were supposed to be shipped out to our homeland of Greece. And it's the bureaucrat paperwork is stopping us from sending this person to Greece because the Greek consulate is playing games and going back and forth while somebody's loved one sits in a morgue waiting to be laid to rest.
So it's bureaucratic crap coming out of Toronto.
Coming out of Toronto, out of the consulate in Toronto, where they're, a grieving family is having trouble sleeping at night. Months and months on end. Their loved one is sitting in a funeral home morgue where they should be buried.
They're embalmed, right?
They're embalmed. If the person wasn't embalmed, we wouldn't be able to hold them that long. With our embalming, we do such a great job that we don't have to refrigerate the person. So the person has been in our morgue for 4 months, embalmed, and ready to go to Greece and be laid to rest. That's what her wishes were. And it's so frustrating as a funeral director to not be able to give that family that peace of mind that they need because of bureaucracy. And it's no different. That's what's happening in our city now. It's bureaucracy. And this needs to change. It's sad. And people are broken over it. So there's so much going on in the world and so much frustration and so much anger. It's heartbreaking to see this. But I want to share a heartbreaking story with you because I want you to know how lucky we are sometimes. So a family came into the funeral home recently. I'm not going to share the family's name, but I'm going to say this. Family came into the funeral home, and I was the funeral director to do arrangements. And as I was starting to do arrangements, there was a young family, a young gentleman had passed away, and the mom came in with her 2 little kids. And as I was doing the arrangements, one of the little ones said to her mom, "Mom, I'm hungry. When are we going to eat?" And that caught me off guard. So I looked at the little one and the mom, and I said, "Oh, haven't the kids had something to eat today? Because we have stuff around the funeral home that we can give them to snack on." And it broke my heart to the point that I literally walked out of the room. What had happened is the mother said to me that, we're really struggling with money. And what we did for the kids today is we went and bought some cereal from the dollar store, but we didn't have enough money to buy milk. So the kids had cereal and water. That's what the kids ate for breakfast. I was so heartbroken that I walked out of the office, and I always carry gift cards for those of you that know me, for people that are struggling, that I can help in one way or another. So I went and got this family a $300 gift card, and I gave it to the mom, and I said, "I want you to go buy groceries for your house so your kids can have food and be, have nutrition in their bodies." And it's heartbreaking to see how many people are struggling like that in our city. In a very wealthy city, they're struggling like that. And I even said to this lady, because I was so broken for her, that I will also pay for your husband's cremation. Just take care of your kids and your family and make sure that they have food on their table. And I walked out of that room thinking how lucky we are, to have enough money, and how blessed we are to be able to eat and to be able to live life normally. And not all families are like that. A lot of families are struggling in Manitoba. And it's heartbreaking to see the little ones struggling because the parents are. And now they're less one person because the dad died. And, you know, the mom's going to be grieving and the children are going to be hurting. And, you know, if you know a family who's struggling,
to make it today, families need two incomes.
You do need two incomes. But if you know a family that's struggling or you think they're struggling, it doesn't hurt to put, you know, a bag of groceries at their door, or give them a gift card. And the reason I give away gift cards is because you can't sell a gift card.
That's
you know,
right.
you can't use it for anything else other than to buy groceries. And we need to show a little love in this world. For all the bad things that are going on in this world, we the people can make things good also. And it takes very little to be a good person. And sometimes you could just give love that you have.
That's a great way to pay it forward.
And kindness. Yeah, it's
Just
like paying
keep a
it forward.
gift card in your pocket at all times. You know, you
There's
hit up
so
a
many
red
people,
light.
you know, and there's times I'll see a homeless person and I'll walk up to them and I'll just sit with them and you know, every person has a story. You weren't born homeless. Every person has a story. Every person struggles, whether it's mental illness or other reasons. And we know since COVID, there's been an outbreak of mental illness. And it's completely out of control. And a lot of families are hurting over that. And that's something that COVID has caused, something the government has caused. All these people that have gone through 2 years of heartbreak and loneliness and the struggle. And the struggle is real. So help those people that you can help. Be a kind person. Sometimes a simple gesture, like a smile and a good morning to somebody, changes their whole day because you're the only person that they're going to talk to all day long. Just something I wanted to get off my chest because it takes zero energy to be a nice person, to be kind to others. And if we were all kind and we all showed a little more love and we smiled a little bit, the world would be a better place in so many different ways. And that's one thing you learn as a funeral director. One thing you learn as a funeral director and you take home with you is that everything in life is on lease. We own nothing. Nothing is ours. It's just here for us to use as a tool in life, and then we don't take it with us. So instead of grabbing on to assets and things that don't matter, take care of family and your kids and people that do matter, because they are the only ones that matter in life. Us, each other, we matter. And every one of you matter. We're going to get into Ask the Funeral Director now and answer some really good questions that have come through. And if you have a question and you want to put it on the screen, you're welcome to do that. We'd be glad to answer that question. I'm actually going to even ask Brad a question tonight.
There we go.
Because Brad's been helping out at the funeral home. Brad, I just got a question for you. You know, since you've been helping out at the funeral home and you've been dealing with grieving families and you've been seeing everything that goes on behind the scenes, because people don't see, you know, what you see when you work in a funeral home. What's your experience like, and what can you tell people about it, and how does it make you feel when you leave the funeral home and come home to your family?
You know, it's a very short answer. I just come home and start crying. Simple. I just start crying, and that's it. Blow my tears out that way. I mean, there's something every day that touches my heart.
Yeah.
There's a video. There's somebody saying something at the front of the room. Could be a pastor. Could be just a true friend. Could be a story about the loved one who's passed away that, you know, you just think of your own family. It just gets you, right? It hits you right here, and once it's got you there, you know, you're no different than everybody else, reaching for a Kleenex and going, man, I need to go home and hug my mom. Right?
Yeah. Just remember, honestly, today's a gift and tomorrow is never promised. Be kind to each other, really, because you never know if you're going to see that person again. And just leave everyone on a good note. That's all we could do as people. You know what? The things we fight about in life are so petty that you just got to laugh at them sometimes. But when you're at funerals and you see the things that we see and you see the hate and the anger and frustration amongst family members, and most of all, the greed. There's so much greed after death. So another thing I could say to you is have a will in place. Have an executor, a power of attorney. Have the things that matter in place so you can avoid the greed and the hate and the anger that happens after death. And trust me, as a funeral director, I'm telling you right now that the greed that's going on in this world after somebody dies is just out of control.
Jamie needs to know, is it true cremated remains are contaminated and unsafe to handle?
Before I answer that question, I just want to say hi to Kevin, who's in Mexico. And Kevin sends me a picture today. Get this. Of all the things that could possibly happen, talking about a small world, Kevin sends me a picture of my brother Pete. And my brother Pete just happens to be in Mexico. And who does he run into? He runs into Kevin. Crazy. So, Kevin, I hope you're enjoying your time in Mexico, and I hope you're having fun. And say hi to my brother Pete. John says, lack of respect to fight at a funeral. It sure is, but it's happening all the time. Now, back to that question. What was it again?
I don't know.
Did it disappear? Question number 1.
Is it true cremated remains are contaminated and unsafe to handle, Mike?
You know, a couple people asked me that question this week.
Are they dirty?
Kathy Tickle, actually, who's on the screen right now, saying, Mike, I'm going to write to you about drinking Pepsi or Coke. Yeah, I know, I agree with you, but it's the only thing around right now, so Brad's the Coke drinker. So Kathy asked me that question this week, too, and so did this person here. Are cremated remains dangerous? No. So cremated remains go through a process of heat that pretty much disinfects those cremated remains, that makes cremated remains clean and disinfected and safe. So cremated remains will not hurt you. You can handle them with your hands. You don't have to worry about getting sick. The only thing that survives the cremation process is the human version of mad cow disease. And that's the only thing that really, it stays alive and could hurt you is that. So if your loved one had that disease, then you need to worry. Other than that, scattering cremated remains or putting them in an urn or, having contact with them is not going to hurt you in any way. Like anything, when you put things through heat, especially the heat of 16 to 1900 degrees, for sure, everything's been disinfected and wiped clean.
So, hey, Fernie Coe's got a great question here. She posted online, and it says, why are fluids from the dead bodies not considered hazardous waste? It's contaminating sewer systems and whatever the water goes.
They are. So fluids from a dead body are contaminated waste. So when you're embalming a body, you're getting rid of contaminated waste, anything in a body. And you can only
just
imagine.
Dumping that down the sewer system?
Yeah, so basically it goes.
So is that gray water?
I guess if you want to call it that. I mean, it goes into no different than flushing the toilet after going to the bathroom. So everything goes.
So is water really water?
Into the same place. You got to wonder that, right? And that's why I'm not a fan of water cremation, where you're sticking, everything from in the body is going to water. At least during cremation, everything is disintegrated.
What would happen if remains got wet? Would it turn into mud or dissolve?
No. So cremated remains, people have this image of, you know what? I'm going to bring a set of cremated remains on the show maybe next week.
Not in my studio.
And I'm going to show you. I'm going to.
No, you're not.
I'm gonna. They're in a jar.
No.
So I'm going to bring a set of cremated remains here so you can see what cremated remains look like. So cremated remains don't get they're almost like little rocks, hard little rocks, because they're actually bone structure of the human body. So when you touch them, they're hard, they're sharp, and they look like they're dust.
Yeah, we're not taking them out of the jar.
No, we're not taking them out of the jar. But I'll show you what cremated remains look like so you kind of get an idea. And then Brad can put his hand in there and touch it a little bit and tell you.
No, I'm not interested in that.
What it feels like. So yeah, when cremated remains get wet, if you put a lot of water in them,
you bring me the skeleton with the whole hand and I'll shake it.
No problem, anytime. Good evening, everyone. Haven't been on for a long time. Hope you're all doing well. Yes, we are, Melissa. Thank you for.
Do you have a skeleton at the shop?
I do.
Why don't we bring it in and get it up behind us every show?
I had a question for Mike from last year. Can you bury remains of a child, of a veteran, with them in Brookside? Yes. So here's what happens with if somebody's buried in Brookside Cemetery in a casket, if they're in a casket, you could put up to 3 sets of cremated remains where that casket is. So that's what the law is. Especially in Brookside Cemetery, they let you put 3 sets of cremated remains. The catch to it is the person who owns the cemetery plot, who buried the veteran in there, that's the one who has to give permission to the cemetery to allow you to put a child in there or another loved one upon.
Is there a whole other fee to that or what?
Just the fee of an opening and closing.
Opening the hole and closing the hole.
It's called opening and closing. I wear some around my neck in a necklace, says John. Won't you wear that ring up around your neck to tell the world?
Go on, there you go, sing away. I'll get you your glasses and your hat.
Next question.
Next question is, how do you cope with the emotional challenges of working in the funeral industry, Mike? Because I tell you what, you put up with a lot of stuff. Adrian wants to know.
Adrian, how do I cope with putting up with everything that I put up in a funeral service? Honestly, I can tell you this from my heart. The way I cope with things is faith, believing in life after death, finding peace amongst myself, and knowing that I'm doing the right thing for a family to carry them through the most troublesome time of their life, and making sure that I guide them and protect them, show them love, compassion, care through that procedure. But for me to find time for myself, just to get my thoughts together, and sometimes just think about what went on that day and how you deal with it yourself, and find peace in death.
Is there a rewarding part of the job? Brittany wants to know.
There is a rewarding part of the job. The rewarding part of the job is seeing a family come into the funeral home that's ripped apart in a million pieces. They just lost a loved one. They're broken. And I know what it's like after losing my brother and my dad. You're broken. You're lost. Nothing anyone says matters. You're in a funeral home. You really don't want to be in the funeral home. The funeral director is talking to you. You're really not listening. Nothing's making sense to you. So the rewarding part of a funeral director is being able to show that family love, care, and compassion, and take them through that terrible feeling that they're going through, and help them find peace at the end by guiding them and protecting them and giving them the proper information they need, and making them feel comfortable, letting them know that their loved one is in good hands with Voyage or myself. It takes a lot of pressure off families when they leave the funeral home smiling, and they feel a little less pressure because you did the right thing, and you were there for that family, and you helped them. And when they left, they finally understood. And then when you say to them, the last thing I say to a family always before they leave the funeral home, if there's anything that we can ever do for you through this time, please call us and ask us the questions you need us to answer. And the people we have working in our offices are honestly angels. They're amazing people that just do it because it's a special part of life that needs to be done by someone. We have Brittany in the office, who's a new addition to our funeral home, who's just an amazing lady who wants to move on and become a funeral director and work in funeral service full-time on another role. And Jenny, who started with us years ago, started as an office administrator and has worked her way up to a funeral director and now a manager. Mike McIver, one of our embalmers at the funeral home, amazing, amazing guy. It's like he dropped out of heaven on our doorstep and has been there ever since, blessing the families and the employees at the funeral home. My son Josh, who hates funeral service but loves it all at the same time, if that makes any sense. 23, struggling with the emotions of dealing with death and struggling with seeing friends and family members dying, and him having to take those people to the crematorium and do the cremation. It's got to be hard on the little guy, and sometimes I understand his frustration and anger. Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate it. But it's part of what you go through when you deal with death and dying every day.
So, Bob Payette, you should talk to Mike, $1,600 instead of $4,000. Wherever you're going, we can get that fixed up, save you some pretty good cash. I noticed Mike Mazer came on and said the exact same thing. Thanks for that, Mike. Glad to hear people understand what the pricing is and are able to take a look at helping people out that are in that need of funeral services, because there's a lot of companies to go to and a lot of different prices out there. But I tell you what, Mike's legit. And you know how we know Mike is legit? There's a lot of people who would say, oh, he just says all that because, well, he's making money. And I'd say anything to make money, too. I tell you, your car is fixed, and I didn't really fix it. Stuff like that. But I got to say, faith plays a big role in Mike's life. Faith is something that Mike doesn't just talk about freely, openly, or unquestionably. He knows exactly what he's saying. He knows why he's saying it. And he truly has belief in God. But what role does your faith play to guide families? I think there's a truth to that, isn't there?
Yeah, if you have faith and you believe in God, you believe in also doing the right thing for those families. The Bible says to comfort those that need to be comforted. And as a funeral director, that's what I do every day of the week, is comfort families. And, you get paid, you get rewarded for your work, obviously. Do we make as much money as other funeral homes? No. I'm looking at, is it Baba?
Yeah, Baba.
Baba, first of all, Brad and I just want to offer you our condolences for your loss. You paid $4,000. You paid way too much money. But some funeral homes charge $6,500 to $7,500 for a simple cremation. Our funeral home is $1,600. If you've run into the situation where you walk into a funeral home, you've lost a loved one, and you got a salespeople, there's a difference. There's salespeople in funeral service, and there's funeral directors in funeral service. Salespeople are trained to sell. They know how to tug on your heartstrings. They know how to get into your pocketbook, and they know how to get money out of you by playing with and on your emotions. So at Voyage, we have no salespeople. It's licensed funeral directors. So be careful. You have a right to walk out if you've been charged too much money. Walk out of that funeral home. Don't be ashamed to tell people if they lose a loved one. Hey, call Voyage and a couple other funeral homes and compare pricing and know the difference. And sometimes they tell you on the phone what you want to hear. You get a licensed salesperson on the phone who knows exactly what to tell you, and they tell you what you want to hear until you walk through their doors, and then they tell you the rest.
How do you respond to Dan Nichols' comment here?
What does Dan Nichols say?
All funeral directors' jobs is to make you feel good, usually with humor.
I would disagree with that. Not all funeral directors are equal. I mean, funeral directors, I would think most funeral directors are really good people. And most funeral directors have gotten into funeral service because they want to help and they want to serve. That's what we do as funeral directors. We serve. But not all funeral directors are the same. And if you're working for a corporate funeral home, some of these funeral directors can't make you laugh, and there's no joking, and it's all serious. Some funeral directors put on that role of the undertaker. Good evening. Welcome to the funeral home. Have a seat. I'll be right with you. And what an eerie feeling that is, right? Do I use a little humor? When you're dealing with the family, there's a time for humor and a time for no humor. And you get to know that the first 5 minutes you're talking with the family. Some families,
sort of like on the show.
Right.
It's not always we can be funny, right? You can't.
Some families do not want humor at all. They want to come in, it's business, they lost a loved one, and they want to get out.
There's nothing funny about that.
And there's nothing funny about losing a loved one. Can I break the ice a lot of times? I do break the ice a lot of times, and I want to make a family feel comfortable before they leave the funeral home. And you almost want to make them feel like you're part of that family through this, walk through death. The sting of death hurts. And
there's a legitimate caring that you have,
yeah,
right?
It's just something. I know Brad's walked into the morgue sometimes and he sees me working on people and he just shakes his head going, wow.
Turn around and walk out.
Because I'm so focused on what I do and how good I want to make a person look and how I want to make them look presentable for their family so they can see him that one last time and have that good image in their mind. There is a difference. Not all funeral directors are the same. Like, not all apples are the same. Not all oranges are the same.
That work you did last week was simply amazing, to say the least. That individual, you made them look like they had just passed away, and it had been a while. So, great job. What exactly is embalming, and why is it done, Mike?
There's Rosemary. Hey, Rosemary. Thanks for coming on the show. Did you see that joke? Phil's telling jokes on our on the show.
No, I didn't.
You got to find out. Where is it?
A white clot walks into a bar and asks for a beer and a pathologist.
Oh, my God, Phil. Have you been drinking a lot of wine as you're watching the show? Just curious. Is embalming legally required in Canada or in Manitoba specifically? So you don't have to embalm a body. A lot of people will tell you that embalming is mandatory and you have to embalm the body, but that is not true. And a lot of people are also told they have to embalm the body prior to cremation, which is another lie. So when you're walking in a funeral service, there's lie after lie after lie, and you do not have to embalm the body. There's no law stating that a body has to be embalmed in Manitoba. The reason we embalm the body, preservation, restoration, and sanitization. Those are the three reasons that a funeral director embalms the body. Should a body be embalmed, in my opinion? Yes, when you're doing an open casket viewing, when people are going to touch the body, when people are going to hold somebody's hands. Don't forget, when a person dies, they go through the procedure of being put into the morgue, putting into a cot, where all the diseases are. And then they're placed in a stretcher where thousands of other people have been placed. So is there pathogens on people? Yes. Does a person need to be embalmed? They should be embalmed if the casket's going to be open. But some people's religious beliefs say, I do not want my loved one embalmed. So we follow those wishes to the best of our ability.
Are there any health or safety concerns associated with embalming?
Absolutely. Embalming is very dangerous. The embalmer needs to be very cautious. And, from the first day I became a funeral director / embalmer, you realize, I'm never going to forget this. I was embalming, numerous bodies one night, and I was tired. It was late at night, and I remember I picked up a lady at a care home, and as I was embalming her, all of a sudden I was stitching, and the needle.
She sat up?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, the needle went right through my hand.
Oh.
So I had a needle right through my hand halfway, and I panicked right away because the first thing you think of is, oh my God, what does this person have? How did they die? Did they have a disease? Did they have a virus?
HIV,
Am I going to get sick?
right, yeah.
HIV. So I had a needle in my hand, and I phoned the care home right away, and I said, look, I'm the funeral director. I'm working on Mrs. X. I just got a needle through my hand. Am I okay? But then when I thought about it, I hung up the phone. I went, how many times have we used this needle?
So you stitched yourself to this lady, and you're going to jump in the casket and just go with the flow.
How many times have we used, you use a needle over and over again until it becomes dull. And anyways, I pulled the needle out and I poured like a whole bottle of Javix.
You're not using dull needles.
Javix, no. But those needles are pretty sharp, and we have ways of sharpening them. So is embalming dangerous? There's all kinds of things that happen in embalming. Where you get splashed by fluids, and embalming fluid is completely, when I get out of an embalming room, I need to drink like a gallon of water because it dehydrates your whole inside. You just feel so dry, your eyes, your whole works. I mean, we have water stations in there. So
are you embalming yourself?
It's just, embalming is not an easy thing to do, and it takes skill and concentration, and it's very dangerous because that person died of a disease that you could catch if you do the wrong thing.
Sounds like I'm never coming in that room.
Ever heard of bloodborne pathogens?
Right. How do funeral directors ensure the dignity and respect of the deceased during embalming?
That's a good question,
wants
Teresa.
to know.
So we always make sure that there's dignity and respect during embalming. We're a funeral home doesn't play show and tell. If you don't work at the funeral home, you're not allowed in the morgue. We make sure everybody's privates are covered up. So there's that respect factor of not being naked, sitting on a table so anybody who walks in sees you. We do things like we treat everyone at our funeral home like we would our own mom and dad. So if our mom and dad were in a funeral home, how would we want them to be? How would we want them to be treated? How would we want them to look and be covered and all those kinds of things? And I remember many times I would leave a candle on or a light on all nights at the funeral home because it was just the right thing to do. A little bit of dignity, a little bit of care, and a lot of compassion. So people say, well, the person's dead. Does it really matter? There needs to be dignity in death.
That's
just
right.
because somebody is dead doesn't mean that you disrespect them or treat them like garbage. That person is somebody's mom or dad, and you need to be very respectful, caring, loving, and gentle with somebody's mom or dad.
Yeah, that's right.
Rosemarie says something, and Mike replies, I just sent your request.
All right, what's the purpose of a funeral procession, Mike?
Oh boy, do I want to talk about funeral processions. That is a good one. Purpose of a funeral procession is the last ride. The last thing you're doing for a person in this world before they leave this world and they're buried.
Why do we drive so slow?
And it's a respect thing. You're driving slow. You want to make sure that the people...
It's my last ride. I want to rip it, man, down the road. I want to get there as quick as possible.
Brad, stop.
I'm not allowed. Fast and Furious.
When we're driving in a funeral procession, we want to make sure we're driving slow so the elderly people in the procession can keep up with us. We don't want people to panic. We want to drive at a speed where we're noticed. If you notice, during us on a funeral procession, we have a lead car, which has police lights in the front, but they're purple and white. We have a limo and a hearse, and sometimes two limos. And I want you to know, for the people that are rude and disrespectful at funerals, and there's lots of them, they cut you off, they give you the finger, they yell all kinds of obscene things out the window. Funeral directors have the right of way. So I don't know if you know this. A funeral director could go through a red light. A funeral director could do things that's illegal under the Highway Traffic Act sometimes, because funeral directors have the right of way. That's under the Highway Traffic Act. So next time you see a funeral procession, pull over.
So in other words, there are specific traffic laws in Manitoba regarding funeral processions.
Under the Highway Traffic Act, it says that a funeral procession has the right of way, meaning that we can go through red lights and we could do some things that you can't do if you don't have those beacons in the procession behind you. And you got to remember, for people in the funeral procession, they're distraught. They're going to a loved one's funeral. And sometimes all they want to do is get there, and when you're cutting them off and you're being rude, be patient, because one day you may have to be in a funeral procession for your loved one, and it's not a great feeling when you're trying to take that last ride and it's interrupted by rudeness.
I just look at him when I'm driving the hearse and I go, "You're next."
Why don't you take the camera over there for a minute and read that next question for me? Thank you.
All right. It's common for people to feel hesitant or even intimidated about approaching a funeral director directly. Kim wants to know, it's common for people to feel hesitant? I don't know if it is or not. Do you feel as though
I think it's
people are hesitant to talk to you?
I think it's common that people are afraid to talk to a funeral director for a lot of reasons. One reason is that a lot of people feel intimidated by a funeral director because, you're sitting at a table, the funeral director's got his suit and tie on,
You're
different
a spooky guy.
And they're worried about being ripped off. They've heard the stories. They're worried about all the things that they hear about funeral directors. Funeral directors are not bad people. Most people in the funeral industry are really, really good people that have good hearts and are there for the right reason. It's the sales people that you have to worry about, not the funeral directors. Our funeral director is approachable. At our funeral home, we make it very approachable, where we want to say hi, we want to talk to you, we want to answer your questions. And is it like that at all funeral homes? Probably not. Do you remember, what was that movie? Where they had the Undertaker, the big guy, I can't remember what it's called, but they had a hearse.
Lurch?
Huh?
Lurch?
Lurch. There's a guy that's not approachable.
Yeah, you're right.
Big Lurch. A lot of comments tonight too. I think a funeral director is very approachable, and sometimes it's just the fear of talking to a funeral director and worried about maybe the questions, maybe the sales pitches, maybe a whole bunch of other things. I don't know.
Can you recall an emotional arrangement with the family that affected you personally?
Oh,
there's
so many emotional arrangements that I've done with families, and a lot of them were arrangements that I did during COVID, where families were broken, and I did so many arrangements that forever will remain in my heart and touch my life in so many different ways. And there's so many heartbreaking arrangements that I've been through in my life that have been devastating. And I think the one that stands out the most in my life is when I did an arrangement for a little 6-year-old girl who died in a motor vehicle accident and had to deal with that family, and found out what happened to her, worked on her afterwards for 11 hours, did a full viewing for that little 6-year-old. And it was something that I go to sleep, even today thinking about. It was so emotional to do a service for a little angel and to get her ready for, her mom and dad and family to see her one more time. But things that happen in an arrangement office when you lose a child are totally different. The emotions are so high. The family's so distraught. There's so much anger and hate. And, sometimes people say, I don't want to talk about God. This is God's fault. Why did he take my child? There's all kinds of things that happen in an arrangement office. And it's okay to be mad at God. And I'm sure he understands. And do we know why God takes little ones home? No. But there is a reason. And we don't have the answers. And we'll never have the answers. But maybe life after death will let us have, those answers. And of course, the hardest arrangement I ever had to do in my life was for my brother Kyriakos. My little brother that I grew up with, changed his diapers when he was young, took care of him like a big brother. It was me and Kyriakos against Nick and Pete, always. All-star wrestling at the house, and I'd always be protecting the little guy. And, I was so proud of my brother as he went through his trials and tribulations in life. And finally, after owning the River Rouge and Rocho Sound and, other businesses and the ups and downs of life, and he finally got into the Cork and Flame, and he finally found his niche in life. And I was so happy and proud to see him grow and to be the person he had become, and to be such a good business person and a caring, compassionate, loving person in his community, and to feed people and take care of people. I was so proud of my little brother. And to find out he died and to have to work on him and do his funeral service is the most devastating thing I've ever faced in my life. And I miss my little brother, and I'm still grieving, and it feels so good even today when people walk up to me and say, hey, my condolences, Mike, your brother was a really good guy. And this is a year later. And, you know, I just can't wait when that day comes that I get to see my brother again. And all his brothers feel the same way. You know, this week on the 19th, we're having a 1-year service at the Greek Orthodox Church for Kyriakis. It's something special that they do. And my mom is such a loving, caring person that she decided she's going to make the sandwiches for Kyriakis' service this Sunday at the church all by herself, because she's a mom and she's hurting, and she lost her little baby boy. And, you know, I can't even imagine, and none of us can imagine, losing a child. And that's what she did. Even though he was 51 years old, he was still a child to her. It was still her little boy. And that brings us back to the end here where we talk about the 24th. If you have a heart, if you care about your community, if you care about your children, your grandchildren, you will join us on the 24th, no matter how cold it is, whether it's snowing. On the 24th, we will be there. We will have live entertainment playing in between speeches. The Cork and Flame will be open if you want to go in and have something to eat prior to that, maybe after. Join us that day. It's an important day because we need to make change in Winnipeg, in Manitoba. And we need to do it because simple reasons that you saw tonight. People's businesses being robbed, others having family members killed or murdered, little kids being molested and touched in a very dirty way. It's time to say enough's enough, and it's time for change. And change starts with us. When we get together and we stand together, united, whether we're holding hands, whether we're holding candles, it's love. It's love for fellow human beings. So please join us that day, and don't make an excuse. It's time to put excuses aside and do it for your community, and do it for your parents who deserve to walk on the streets, and for your kids who deserve to play in their schoolyards without fear. There's so much we need to stand up to in this world. There's so much that's going wrong that we need to make right. And if we don't stand up and if we don't make change, everything stays the same and the world becomes worse and worse every day. We thank you for joining another edition of Ask the Funeral Director. We love when you join us. We love when you're here. We love the comments. I love working with Brad. Take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you and your families. Please like, share, and follow Ask the Funeral Director. Take care.
Good night, everybody.